Because a lot of worry and a lot of stress comes from fear. And I happen to be a Christian. You don't have to be. And I fought for this country, so you can believe whatever you want to believe. But then that means I get to believe what I want to believe. And so we are told, fear not, more than any other commandment in the Bible. So I tell people all the time, hey man, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And so that sound mind is so that we can figure this out. And I don't need to freak out. Let's just figure it out. As you're leading, right, if the speed of the group's determined by the speed of the leader, then man, you got to stay filled up. And so you do have to exercise some self-care. And it's easy for guys to just be all about the mission and all about the grind. And as a leader, you've got to be cognizant of that, right? Because your key dudes, if you build it right, they don't want to let you down. And they don't want to come to you and say, I need a break, right? And in the military, like, no one wants to say that, right? I mean, you're Airborne Ranger, Air Assault, EIB, CIB combat patch. I'm not going to go to my company commander and go, hey man, can I have Friday off? I just need a mental stress day. Like, that's not in the handbook, okay? So sometimes you just have to tell those high performers, hey man, you're not going to come in tomorrow. What? Yeah, dude, like, you need to chill.
Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Boom! What's up, everybody? Great to see everybody. So I am super excited to share our next interview with you guys, and this is going to be an amazing story. There's so many great things about this, and we are calling in here. We've got the part of the 360 Movement Personal Growth Tribe that's plugging in. We also have some folks that are part of the EQ for Entrepreneurs group and podcasts are listening in as well. So super excited to introduce our guest for you all today. His name is Scott Criswell. He is the president of or the CEO of Symmetry, which literally he started back in 2008. There it is. There you go. 2008, this company did not exist. And from 2008 to today, Scott took it literally to a top 4 global brand in the hygiene space, the hand hygiene space. So, and here's one of the other reasons why this is such a neat and unique time and opportunity is because of right now what's going on, the past month or two is the big hot topic globally is the coronavirus. Being in the hand hygiene space and the health space, like literally Scott is like, this is how busy Scott has been. Literally, probably too. He literally turned down 2 interviews, one from CBS and one from CNN. So
I said, hey man, if I can only do one, it's going to be with Noble Givens, baby. So sorry, man. Yeah, take a number.
So without further ado, and I forgot to mention also, one of my closest friends in my life, this guy right here. So Scott, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, man, dude, he is actually not joking, man. Like, it has been crazy. I don't know what industry or, what line of work some of you guys are in, but between last week And this week, this has probably been the most difficult, challenging opportunity of a lifetime. So I told Noble, I said, it might get a little emotional tonight with he and his emotions. But dude, yeah, no, this guy, man, and everything he's done for me, I would absolutely carve time out to do this. And I said I was going to do it. And so sorry, CNN, sorry, CBS, Noble wins. And yeah, if we can add value in any way, we'll do it, man. Might be a little slap crazy tonight, but that's all right, man. You know, I'm going to get off the phone and it's 12 hours ahead in China, and I'll be talking to those folks, and then I'll go home, sleep for a couple hours. The UK is 6 hours ahead, and I'll be talking to the folks in the UK. So please don't tell me you're working too hard right now, or I'll end this immediately. So anyway, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. So yeah, but happy to be here, man. Happy to be here.
Thanks a million, Scott. So, man, so you have got, you know, of course, I've known you for a number of years now, and you know, I know of all your superpowers and strengths, and you've got amazing gifts and talents. How has it been? What has it been like having a global, literally being in the healthcare space and having a global, you know, issue going on right now, like the coronavirus? What has your life been like? Just what's it been like the past month or so?
It is nuts, man. It is nuts. You will really quickly figure out that you never have balance, right? That's something we all achieve, but at any given moment, we're pulled so many different directions. And I literally feel like I'm on the ancient rack in some, you know, torture chamber, getting pulled in every direction right now. But I think, you know, the key is, let me back up, because there's three things you brought up, and I want to make sure that I hit them all. So one of the things that you said initially was, excuse me, that he built it. And so I may have been in charge of it, but I did not build this, right? I heard somebody say one time that if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself, right? So anytime somebody tells you I did this, or I'm so cool and I broke these records and I did all that stuff, I always hit a little bit of a discount button, because it's probably there was probably more than one person at a minimum involved in that. But I think that's why it is key to find the right people that can align with you and have the same thought process, have the same goals, and understand the culture. Because if you build that culture right, then when something like this hits, everybody's not freaking out. Right. I mean, I tell people all the time, and again, I don't know what everybody's background is. I was in the military, and they did a really good job of indoctrinating me, because I was only in for 4 years, but I still run everything like I'm in the military. And you know, the minute people start freaking out, I'll say, whoa, time out. Hold on, man. I got a couple questions for you. Are we all going to go home and sleep in our own bed tonight? Oh, we are. Okay. All right. Okay. Wait a minute. Is the air conditioning running in here? Oh, wait, it is. Okay, cool. Oh, wait a minute. Were those gunshots? Are we getting shot at right now? Oh, we're not. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I'm sorry. What's the crisis you were talking about? So it's right. It's all a snapshot in time, and it's all perspective. And so if you're getting the right people, which is, I mean, I can't emphasize that point enough, then really it's not that hard to do what we've done. But it started with one or two people, and you get the right thought process and you get the right approach. And then I'm a freak about protecting our culture. I will wait 6 or 12 months to fill a position because that person isn't the right fit. Because if you get the wrong fit in there, you will spend way too much time with that person, and it's counterproductive to the mission, right? We used to say all the time, as an infantry platoon leader, that your people will do 50% of what you do right and 100% of what you do wrong. And so it's important that you get the right leaders in place and they understand the mindset and the culture. And then another thing that I say a lot, because you know, a lot of worry and a lot of stress comes from fear. And I happen to be a Christian. You don't have to be, and I've fought for this country, so you can believe whatever you want to believe, but then that means I get to believe what I want to believe. And so we are told fear not more than any other commandment in the Bible. So I tell people all the time, hey man, God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And so that sound mind is so that we can figure this out, and I don't need to freak out. Let's just figure it out. So while it has been sort of crazy with all this going on, the only reason that we're handling it is because we took the time up front to make sure that the right people were in place, the right culture was in place. And then when that storm comes, everybody's anchored and everybody can weather it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, that's excellent, Scott. So let's stay there for a second then, because I'm a big culture guy as well. How did you, man, I've got so many questions. What is your culture philosophy? What culture have you created that has enabled your organization to handle adverse times like the situation we're currently in?
Well, I think one of them, you're going to feel like you're in leadership at IOBC back in Building 4, man. But, very simple things like don't ever ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do. Lead by example. On any given day, if I walk through the plant, I can park out front and there's a spot that everybody thinks is mine and nobody wants to park in it. But I actually don't park out front. I park in the back because it allows me to walk through the entire plant and I get to see everybody from shipping to production through accounting. And so I get to say good morning to everybody. Everybody sees me walk through there. I don't know all 500 employees by name because sometimes they get hired and I wasn't here or whatever, but I know a whole lot of the folks, right? So when I'm in there, they understand that I'm trying to understand it. And I'm not down there trying to do their job, and I definitely don't micromanage. But I think part of it is getting to know your people and understanding people and let them know who you are. I am this weird all the time. My guys will all tell you. I tell people this all the time. They'll be like, man, are you like this all the time? I'm like, all the time, right? I don't switch my hat and go, yes, Mr. Customer, now that I'm the president of Symmetry, I'd like to talk to you about it. No, dude, like I roll like this all the time. And I think part of the identity is I want somebody that's just authentic. Like I don't need you to be me. I don't need you to be a robot. Like God left everybody with a specific thumbprint for me to make an imprint that only I can make. And so be you and be the best you. And then I think part of that is understanding everybody's strengths. So I'll give you one quick example of that. It is required reading for me, for everybody to read Personality Plus, because most people don't know how to deal with personality styles, right? And so I am actually, Noble may disagree, but I've taken the test, okay? So I am actually a phlegmatic melancholy. Now, you wouldn't know that listening to me, okay? But I know that for me to relate to people, I can't go, I'm just going to sit back here and I won't answer your questions. But it has to be in a specific order. Wait, you asked me one, now I must answer. No, man, like that's not the world that we live in. Okay. So I would love to do that. One of my favorite things to do is to go to a movie by myself, like myself. Okay. So, but that doesn't work when you're running an organization. So, but if you said it, people are very open. And I will tell them like, dude, this is not who I am, but I can do it because this is what it requires. Okay. And I'm not talking about being fake. Like when I do this, this is really how I am. But when I don't have to do this, like quiet is really how I am. So if you've ever seen the old, and you guys may be too young, man, I'm getting ready to turn 52, but the old Warner Brothers frog, right? When the guy's got the frog and he's like dancing and doing all this stuff. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he rents out the venue and he's like, dude, this frog is going to perform. And then, the curtains open and the frog's just like, ribbit, and he didn't do it, So I'm a chameleon, right? But I want to relate to the most people that I can. And I don't expect people to bend to, this is how I want you to perform. I mean, if I get in your car and you have a whole bunch of empty water bottles on your floorboard, which I did last week, I didn't seize up and like freak out on that guy. Now I gave him a hard time and I'm like, dude, you would never find this in a vehicle that I owned, like ever. Like I would seize up if I got in my car and an empty water bottle hit my foot, okay? But I didn't seize up because he did. I'm like, dude, this guy is sanguine off the charts, okay? But he's great. He doesn't know a stranger in a room. So if I take him, I'm like, dude, why don't you go get everybody talking and then I'll come in and give them all the details, right? So it's I think it's that synergy of understanding people. I mean, to me, like the most important thing about building a group is the people, and then being real yourself. You almost know me long enough, man. I'm this odd all the time. And think about what the other person is thinking about, because right now there is so much stress going on in this building. I know everybody's stressed out. So I try to anticipate, how can I phrase this so that they literally don't seize up on me right now, because we need to all be working, right? And so it's easy to go, hey man, I'm in charge and I'm a cleric, man, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and drop and give me 50 and blah, blah. And it's like, here's patrol base ops. Okay, yes, those things all need to get done, but how do we do it, right? And then ask a lot of questions. I know I'm talking a lot now and I'm already going, oh dude, you're talking too much. But I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I think God gave me that so that I could use them in that proportion. So I love to ask questions. I like to get somebody's opinion. And I always tell people when we're in a discussion, look, man, my vote doesn't count any more than yours right now. This is a brainstorm. You guys have got all kinds of amazing ideas. I don't want to limit our ability to what I can think of. I don't want to be the crimp in the hourglass. Like, newsflash, I took fencing for college credit, man. I had a 2.8 GPA as a history major, right? Like, not a nuclear physicist. So let's all plug our brains together here like batteries in parallel, and we'll figure out a better solution. So I don't know if I really answered everything you wanted me to hit there, Noble, on creating that culture. But for me, those are things that are really critical to establish that.
No, that's excellent, Scott. You nailed a ton of amazing points there, and I'm taking notes here, so I'll be able to maybe circle back to some of these things.
Yeah.
Let me ask this: if you had to sum up your business philosophy, so you shared some leadership philosophy stuff there. Now, maybe if you had to sum up your business philosophy, how would you summarize that?
Dude, that's easy. Like, put yourself in your customer's shoes, right? So when I got out of the military, literally the last thing I wanted to do was go into sales. I mean, the last thing I wanted to do. And I wanted to be close to my now wife that I had dated long-term for 4 years. And so the opportunity was with this company, and it was in Seattle, and it happened to be sales. And I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to do this, like, just to get out there, and then I'll find another gig. And now 25 years later, here I am. So, but I'm telling you that because I was so opposed to doing sales that I had to get my mind right. And so my approach then, which is carried through to our kind of corporate philosophy now, was if I just get in there and find out what somebody's problem is and show them how my product solves it, I don't need to be Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and put a half Nelson clothes on you. Like if I know what your need is and I show you how my product uniquely can solve that problem, and I have some advantages there because a lot of our chemistry and offerings are patented. So it's not something that you can just go buy, from everybody down the street, right? So I think part of it is, if I was going to start any business, I'd want to have something that had a very unique value that was very clear to delineate against anything else that my competitor was doing. And so I would go into an account, ask a ton of questions because I didn't want to talk, right? Get the customer talking, then that put me at ease. And I would find out what that issue was. And then I took samples with me, right? Like we manufacture chemistry, so I could carry in a particular product, and you tell me you have that issue, and I'd be like, man, can you take me there? And then we'd go see if it would work. And then if it worked in that application, right? If you're Boeing and you need something to clean, cutting fluids off of a part in a pressure washing bin, I'd say, man, well, how about I come back Thursday? I'll bring some of that. Let's see if it works, right? And then if it works, they're like, man, I need this stuff. I didn't have to go in and be Joe Cool sales guy, but it was always about putting the customer first, listening to them, find out what their need is. And I think a lot of times when people think of sales, their only exposure to selling is retail or door to door. Okay. And not that there's anything wrong with either one of those, but if you've never been in a business to business sales call, that's a very different kind of sales call, right? I mean, like right now, like today, I'll give you an example. Disney called, hey, we need hand sanitizer. You know, man, that wasn't hard for me to have a conversation, right? You had Target stores called, you know, we need 10,000 of these, right? So because they can't get that anywhere else and they know they can get it from us. So I wasn't having to pick up the phone and call them. They were calling me. But part of that is we have demonstrated historically that we're different than what anybody else does in the market. We're going to listen. So I think one of the other things, Noble, is you can kind of get too big for your britches and think, well, I know what you need. I don't really need to ask you questions and probe to find out what your needs are. But dude, I've been doing this so long. I know you need my stuff. I'm the king, man. Like, let me tell you what you need. Well, that's pride goes before the fall, right? So that's a really arrogant attitude to take. And so I think, honestly, some of our competition is a little bit more, we know what you need better than you do. And I just think in general, people don't respond well to that.
Love it. Love it. 100% agree. Totally makes sense. Excellent points. And, and I want to tie back some things here before we get too far down the road on all the areas that emotional intelligence played into your answers. So let me just go back to when you were talking about what's the other person truly want. Well, part of emotional intelligence is, number one, self-awareness, but also number two is others awareness. Well, just for you to think of that question, what does the other person want? That takes emotional intelligence. Another one is, how can I phrase this so the other person doesn't freeze up? Well, that's another one where you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes, which again takes emotional intelligence. Another one, asking a lot of questions. That kind of implies, it doesn't necessarily guarantee, but implies that you care about the other person in order to even ask them questions. Again, I know some folks, maybe you're task oriented, may not, intentional. Well, I care about the outcome. I don't necessarily care about the person. So, it doesn't necessarily guarantee, but asking a lot of questions helps to, I feel, show care for the other person and take some emotional intelligence. Another one, you talked about when you're making decisions with other folks, hey, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Everyone brings their own perspective, their own experience, their own mindset, their own skill set to the table, right? In the military, using a military analogy, the infantry guy thinks differently than the aviator, who thinks differently than the tanker, who thinks differently than the logistician, but all of them are necessary in the battle. Same thing in business. You got your operations, you got your HR, you got your legal, right? You've got your you got all these different departments. And so just the act of collaboration, in my opinion, takes some emotional intelligence to even entertain other people's perspectives, right? Because again, like you said, pride goes before the fall. It's very easy to allow our ego. I want to be the shell answer man. I want to be the guy that has the credit for the answer, all that kind of stuff. So again, another aspect of emotional intelligence that played is in there. Another one, I think too, is that kind of the beginning, not necessarily the beginning, but another early example of your emotional intelligence is, going from the infantry into sales. Like, man, I didn't want to do that. Well, but you did anyway, right? The ability for you to, change your mindset or be able to think differently and be willing, it's another big one, be willing to get out of your comfort zone, I feel is another, kind of aspect of emotional intelligence that not everyone is willing to do.
I live out of my comfort zone every day right now. I mean, dude, it is, yes, I can relate to that statement very well, very well. I think you brought up something, I just want to touch on it, because you talked about somebody that's task oriented, right? Or man, I want to get to the result, right? Or that driver, that cleric mentality. And so I think a lot of times that personality is looking for the shortcut, right? And so I think one of the other things that is a little bit part of our culture is I really talk a lot about be a long-term thinker. Okay, don't be a short-term thinker. We're going to win the long game, right? And what I mean by that is if I read every selling book on the planet, and I know every Jedi mind trick to talk to Noble and to get you to buy a 55-gallon drum of hand sanitizer today, but you have buyer's remorse when it's all said and done. And, I leave and an hour later, you just finally realize that I, hit you with the samurai knife and gutted you. And you're like, wow, dude, did I really commit to buying that? I didn't even want that. Like, how did that guy do that to me? You're never going to get a reorder, right? So I know that seems like, dude, I can go in, man, I can jiu-jitsu this guy into buying a 55-gallon drum, but I'm here to tell you, you're not going to get a reorder, right? I'd much rather say, hey man, try this. Here's a little sample. Try this. If it works, I'm happy to get your product, right? But don't feel like everything's got to be a major win and it's got to be in a condensed short time window, because often that leads to a longer protracted process, because now I've got to go through that many more customers to get the same result. So if I slow down, it's that whole slow down to speed up, right? Slow down, do what's right for the customer, and that's going to come back to you 30, 60, 100 fold, right? So control what you can control. I can't control them. All I can control is how I'm trying to solve their problem. But I'm here to tell you, I mean, I've just seen it way too many times. That approach will far outweigh I'm getting this done. Like, this guy doesn't even know it. He is buying a timeshare in Branson today. We are popping that balloon, and that joker, okay, but the joke's probably going to be on you when, he tears that contract and, reneges on it 2 days later because of the way you did it. So because I understand, man, just trust me, I'm running around this building right now and nothing is getting done fast enough, the way I want it to get done. But I'd ruin a whole lot of relationships long-term, and I would upset a lot of emotional basket carts if I just started telling everybody it's all about what you need to do in the next 5 minutes or today or by the end of the day. And again, I'm in it for the long haul, right? This coronavirus surge will level out at some point, in my opinion. And so is it worth burning every bridge to get through this, whatever period of time this is? In my mind, no, right? Because I'm going to be here next month, next year, et cetera. And so play the long game. But I know it's easy for that task-oriented, cleric driver to be like, dude, let's go. We got to get to the point. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. But you have to understand, 80% of the people you're dealing with don't think that way. So now you're trying to drive. I say all the time, you got to connect with somebody before you can pull them. And you are just pushing that person away from you. So slow down, connect, and then I can pull, right? If you've ever had rope tied up to something and you were going to pull it with a truck or a car or whatever, if I'm tied up to a stump and I'm going to pull it out with a truck, and I'm a redneck at heart, okay? I went to Indiana, and in Indiana we're called Hoosiers, and in Missouri they don't say redneck, they say Hoosier. So I'm a Hoosier twice, so I'm a double redneck. But if you've ever tied a stump up with a rope and pull it out with a truck, you don't just like gas it and rip that stump out, because what's going to happen? You're going to either pull the axle out of the truck or snap that rope. The stump's going nowhere, okay? So once you're connected, I start real slow, and then I can pull that stump out, right? Nice and slow. But everybody that just wants to go bam, slam it, I'm telling you, nothing good comes when you try that approach. So that's been my experience anyway.
Excellent point, Scott. And I think the other ripple effects there. So again, this is another example of emotional intelligence and this is a very relevant topic for so many entrepreneurs out there, the entrepreneur sprint, right? Where in the startup phase of any business, and not just startup phase, but because you're in a very mature cycle of your business, 12 years into your business, so you're not anywhere near that anymore. But still, the entrepreneur is known for just sprinting, and you can't sprint for 26 miles in your business career. You can't sprint for your entire business career. And what happens is, and I've seen it in a lot of different businesses and leaders who don't figure this out, is they wear out their stallions, their high performers, their high achievers, and it's going to be nothing for that high achiever to be like, deuces, Scott. Like, if you're going to, just because bullets are flying, you're going to start treating me like a widget, bro. I can find somewhere else to I can choose my abuse, and I don't want to choose this abuse, right? Boundaries and stuff, and where that comes into play in business is, man, what is the retention? What's your retention rate? What's your attrition rate for your company? And then what's the training cost of having to retrain all these new staff folks, these new people, because you're just wearing out your team, your staff, even amongst in a combat scenario where you're at right now in a business combat environment. It would be very easy, especially with the military background, to switch into commander mode, brigade commander mode, division commander mode, and they may perform for this time, for this month, 6 months, a year that you guys are going to have to be sprinting. But as soon as the dust settles, they'll be like, hey, bro, or you may lose them in the middle of combat, right? It's the combat fatigue, kind of kicks in and stuff. So
No
I
question.
feel like, how you're doing it is a very emotionally intelligent, very smart way where you're considering, you're taking into account the human side of business, of leadership.
Well, one of the things that we did, this was before every news story had something related to the coronavirus. So maybe a month ago, but you could see it coming, man. You know what I mean? I saw, we lived through H1N1, right? So, I mean, to me, it was sort of like, oh man, here we go again, And so I sat down with all my key guys and I said, does everybody have their vacation lined out for the rest of the year? Right? Because like when I start January 1st, I know when all my vacations are, right? Like for the whole year. Okay, melancholy. But a little bit of a planner. And I know not everybody rolls that way, but a lot of my guys are such high performers that they will just redline. And I said, look, man, I'm here to tell you, it's going to get crazier before it eases up. And so if you don't have it, you need to get that booked right now. Your wife needs to know when it is. Your family needs to know when it is. You need to know when it is. And you need to look forward to that. Okay. I think people can run super hard for about 90 days. Okay. And then after about 90 days, man, you better be changing the oil, right? Like I need to go to a shooting range by myself. I need to go see a movie by myself. I don't know, man, soak in a tub by something, right? But I'm going to get away from people and I'm going to decompress. And I've got to, right? Cause you got to fill yourself up because as you're leading, right? If the speed of the group's determined by the speed of the leader, then man, you got to stay filled up. And so you do have to exercise some self-care. And it's easy for guys to just be all about the mission and all about the grind. And as a leader, you've got to be cognizant of that, right? Because your key dudes, if you've built it right, they don't want to let you down. And they don't want to come to you and say, I need a break, right? And in the military, like, no one wants to say that, right? I mean, you're Airborne Ranger, Air Assault, EIB, CIB combat patch. I'm not going to go to my company commander and go, hey, man, can I have Friday off? I just need a mental stress day. Like, that's not in the handbook, okay? So sometimes you just have to tell those high performers, hey, man, you're not going to come in tomorrow. What? Yeah, dude, like, you need to chill. Go spend time with your wife. In fact, we got a guy right now in the UK. He flies back Wednesday, and it's going nuts there. I mean, if you think we're crazy here in the US, if you watch the news about what's going on in the UK, like we can't send enough product there fast enough. And he said, man, things are so crazy. He's like, I'll be in the office Thursday and Friday. Well, he's been in the UK for 16 days. Now, I don't know if you're in the military, you're like, dude, that's like a tune-up to go away for 9 months. But, as a civilian, that's a long time, right? And I said, no, man, you're not coming in the office on Thursday and Friday. When you get back, you need to get back on Central Time. You need to reconnect with your wife. You need to reconnect with your kids. Your phone's going to be ringing anyway. I mean, it's not going to be me, but I said, dudes are going to be calling you anyway. So you're not fully going to escape, but you're not coming into this office, okay? And so I think part of it was then it gave him the okay, I don't feel like I'm a wuss or I'm tapping out or, I can't hang, right? And so sometimes male ego, right? I mean, dude, women are great because they just don't have that issue, right? But like men have this male ego we have to deal with. And so you got to help those guys sometimes in particular and say, hey, man, I know you're Iron Mike and I know that they chiseled him after your body and your mindset, but you are not coming in tomorrow. Have a nice day, So you do have to, you've got to watch that, right? Because it's real easy to say, oh my gosh, now above all times, we're just going to run nonstop until everybody just falls over. And again, short-sighted, right? I'm in it for the long haul. And I think one thing that it didn't dawn on me until you talked about keeping people noble, but I was running through it in my head when you talked about turnover. And in 12 years, I've only had one key guy leave my organization. And that was because he was from Boston originally, and his wife was from Boston, and they had a kid, and they had no family here. And his wife was like, we have got to move back to Boston. And he's like, dude, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, your marriage is more important than this job. So I said, hey, the door's always open, but man, you better take care of the family first. So he lives in Boston. He and I are still friends today, but no one else has left. Now they've been promoted and they're in different roles, right? But we haven't lost that core nucleus. And so I think part of it is, I am a big balance guy, and I think to win long-term, that's really critical.
Wow. That is, dude, Scott, that is humongous. I would, dude, that is crazy talk that you have had one guy in 12 years like bounce, and it wasn't even an issue with the company or with you or management. No. Like that is, dude, that has got to be a record. Like if you polled every CEO in corporate America, like what's your attrition? I doubt they would have the same retention that you do.
Well, can I comment? I just had this thought when you said that, right? I think here's a challenge, because I know a lot of guys in other industries, and people love to put me down on a resume, when they're looking for another gig. And a lot of people think, man, that next gig is going to be the perfect gig, right? Oh, if I just had that job. Oh man, if I just was at that company. Oh, if I just had this position, right? Or man, if I made $10,000 more dollars, like my life would be so different. And I have just always believed that the grass is greener where you water it, right? And so again, right, long game. So if you look at, my wife's a great example, okay? She and I both went to Indiana University. She's actually intelligent. Like she had a 4.0 in college. She took the CPA exam during finals week her senior year, passed it the first time, fast tracking to be a manager at a big six accounting firm. And then Scott Criswell, right? History major, 2.8 GPA, D- in European history, took fencing for college credit, pass fail, by the way. I didn't want to take it for a grade. Took W's. Some of you probably don't know what taking a W is. That's how you withdraw, so you don't get an F, so it doesn't affect your GPA. That's a free tip if you're still in school. So, right? But I was just dumb enough to go, hey man, if I get with a company that will allow me to grow, right? And so if you're telling me that if I do the work, I will have the opportunities, that's all I needed, right? And so many people think it's going to be that key role, that key title. Dude, I am not a title guy. Like people give me such a hard time because I never walk into a room and introduce myself with a title. I've never done it ever. And now people will ask me, hey, what do you do? What's your role? And obviously I answer it, but I'm not a title guy. Okay. Because I always tell guys at the end of the day, if I'm doing everything I can control, that stuff will take care of itself. Right. Like I can't tell you, Noble, within 6 figures, what my salary is. Okay. Because it goes to Jane. She's a CPA. She's a ninja on finances. Okay. Now, obviously we talk about it. I don't want you to think like, I don't know what's going on financially, but my point is I don't track that stuff. Okay. Because I can't control that. What I can control is what am I going to show up and do tomorrow? What did I show up and do today? How am I going to run this thing tomorrow? Right. And if I do those things right, that other stuff will work out. So I'm not a guy that's constantly checking numbers like a stock ticker, like, oh man, what's my increase this year? Like I'm the worst conversation guy with that stuff because I feel like, right, I believe in the law of sowing and reaping. So if I sow everything I can, right, if I sow time, if I sow effort, right, if time is money and I'm sowing time, then I'm going to reap those things back. And, but anyway, I just know, if you're talking to business people and EQ for business leaders, and especially, somebody in a startup, they might just think, man, if I could just hire this one guy, there's so many people that think there's this one silver bullet, man. If I can just get that magic silver bullet, life's going to be rosy. And newsflash, I don't know of one, right? Like there's a reason I say it's lonely at the top because, you want to talk about struggles at another level, right? You don't just have your junk to deal with. Now you have 500 people's junk to deal with. So you better be emotional, stable, and be able to handle it and know how it affects other people. And you need to know how it affects you. Because if you don't figure that out, then you're not going to handle other people right. But please don't get hung up on dude, if I was the regional director or the senior vice president, like, dude, if you do your job, that stuff will work out. Trust me.
Love it. That's awesome. another way that I've heard it said before, Scott, is if you build people, your business will grow. If
Absolutely.
some people build their business and use people, which in my opinion is not the best way to go about doing it. It sounds like you genuinely, obviously care about your people, your team, your leaders, sow into them, build into them. And as a result, Shazam, you've got, now obviously there's a lot more systems and processes that go into that, but
sure.
From a principle standpoint, it sounds like those are a number of the principles that you follow. That is awesome, Scott. Okay. Excuse me. Now switching gears a little bit. How has emotional intelligence played a role in you as a man, as a leader, as a CEO of a large company, as someone who has taken a company from literally zero to top 4 brands in your space? How has EQ, emotional intelligence, played a role?
Plays a role every day. I mean, constantly. I think especially right now, dude, I'll give you an example. At least twice last week, and if today's Monday, because I can't remember what day it is, I think it's Monday. I have texted my wife at least 3 times and said, Jane, please pray for me right now. I'm starting to get a little worked up. I don't want to lose my mind right now. I need to stay calm. And I know the stress is getting to me. And it would really help if I knew you had my back. Okay. So I think one of the things, and I've heard you say it before, Dover, you got to be self-aware, right? So, we all know when we are starting to hit that, I'm going from 211 to 212, and I'm about ready to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay? So part of catching that and saying, all right, man, what do I need to do right now? I mean, I couldn't leave next week and go to a movie by myself in the middle of the day, right? That's not an option. So how am I going to deal with this? So having somebody that you can share it with really quickly, right? For me, it's my wife. She's my best friend. Like, that's who I tell all my junk. Her, if she's not available, Noble, right? But somebody that you can say, hey man, like, I know I'm not cool right now, and help me get a checkup from the neck up. And then I tell guys all the time, I'm like, hey man, look, if you see me coming unwound, please grab me and say, hey man, you are about to go crazy, and I want to know about it, right? Because I would rather have somebody catch me before I go berserk, than for me to do that, and then I damage that relationship with somebody when I clearly wouldn't want to talk to them that way, and on any other day would never talk to them that way. But in the heat of the moment, and we've all done it, and though I try to do it, have I done it? Absolutely, right? So, admit it, right? And forget it, right? Admit it, ask for forgiveness, and then forget it. But so I think part of it is being self-aware. I think the other way that, EQ plays into it is I know that on paper, I would be nobody's first choice. Okay. I joke about my background, everything I told you about my college transcript and my major and my GPA. That's not like to sound funny. Like, it's funny because that's my actual background. All right. So I am probably one of the lowest IQ folks in this company. I guarantee you I didn't have the highest SAT or what's the other one people in this part of the country take? I forget. We took SAT, but I can't remember right now what it is. There's
ACT.
a different, ACT, right? And so I'm not a good standard test taker. Like, I don't have more degrees than a thermometer. I mean, I have a Bachelor of Arts in history, okay? So most of the people that work for me have got way more degrees than a thermometer, masters and PhD chemists. And like, I will go down to research and I'll walk in there and you get all these dudes in white smocks and they'll be like, yeah, can we help you? Like, what do you need? And I'm like, man, I just needed to be smarter, man. I thought if I stood in here for a few minutes, I'll do a better job on this next phone call and then I'll walk out, right? So I think understanding that, yes, you need to be smart enough to know that you don't walk out in front of traffic. Yes, I need to know if I touch an oven, I'm going to get burnt. Okay. but we don't screen people based on typical resume standards that somebody would look at, right? They're like, oh, okay, Noble went to, oh, okay, Harvard on the Hudson. Oh, yes, this is fantastic. He can tell me the template for cutting pie. That's incredible. And look at his amazing GPA, and he knows the definition of leather. And he, dude, okay, that's great. All right. When you come and interview with me, I don't even look at your resume. I'm like, okay, man, how do you decompress? I'm like, what do you do to decompress? I'm like, what motivates you? Like, what gets you crazy fired up? You know, and what do you want to be doing in 5 years? Like, because if I can't picture you doing something in 5 years, I will tell candidates this. I'll be like, look, if we can't picture where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years, I would be doing us both a disservice to hire you, because now I'm putting you in a position that would limit your ability to do what you want to do. So wouldn't you rather me tell you right now, dude, I don't think you can do that ever, right? And then go find something that you're good at, rather than me go, well, I just need a hot body to fill that slot right now. Okay, but again, very short-term thinking, right? Because then that limits my ability on my talent long-term to be promoted. And really, I'm not thinking about that other person at all, right? I'm thinking about, okay, man, I got a body out here to do whatever I need him to do. Completely self-centered, right? So the EQ is always driving it for me. And again, I don't want to, dude, like, let me give a little admin disclaimer here. I'm not against having a college education. I love education, but I think there's a lot of different types of education. And sometimes people think, you know, this degree or this GPA or this fraternity or this sorority or this, you know, whatever gig means more than anything else. And all those things have meaning, but I would trump any of those with somebody's EQ, right? I will give, if two people look perfectly the same to me on a piece of paper, right? Same school, same GPA, same major, and Noble says, you know, worked full time while I was in school, you know, took care of my younger brother, you know, had to, you know, help my mom's estate when she passed away while I was in college. And, you know, Criswell over here is like, oh, dude, I was, you know, intramural football champion and, you know, the vice president of the fraternity and I don't know, whatever whoop-de-doo deal. Like, dude, Noble Gibbons is going to get the nod every day and twice on Sunday for me, because I think those are indicators of that guy's EQ, right? And so to me, that, I don't know that it's an ongoing, I don't know that I walk around all day going, I'm going to analyze this through an EQ, not IQ, but I think it, you know, I'm from Missouri, and Missouri has a lot of cool little phrases, right? And so Mark Twain is from Missouri, and one of my favorite quotes from Mark Twain is, common sense, unfortunately, isn't all that common, right? And so I would trump it with somebody who's got really good common sense over somebody who's got a 4.0, but they can't talk to somebody, right? So like, if you have all the knowledge in the world, but you can't translate it to another human being or use that knowledge to solve their problem, I don't care if you were on the dean's list, like, that's not going to help anybody, you know? So I think there's all those little, I feel like it's just kind of naturally woven in and out of everything that the EQ is always driving it. You know, I also happen to be a dad, you know, so my daughter is 11, my son is 9, and but clearly I'm married, or maybe not clearly, but I am married, right? And so, you know, we it's not just a work thing, like that's a family thing, that's a parenting thing. So I'm also very conscious about, you know, what are my kids going through? Where are they at, right? You know, my daughter is 11. She's getting ready to enter a phase of life, you know, where hormones are going to change, and, you know, there'll be a whole new chapter for us to navigate together. But we have open conversation, right? Like I told her this weekend, I said, hey, newsflash, when your hormones change, you are likely going to have a tough time dealing with all these new emotions. And that's okay. We know it's coming. You know it's coming. We just need to talk about it, right? So don't get frustrated with it. We will help you through that. But if you're starting to get angry or frustrated or sad or whatever, you got to tell us. I feel like we do it, you know, dude, I'm not a perfect parent. Trust me, ask my kids. I'll be like, he is definitely not perfect. They can give you a laundry list of things dad needs to fix. But there's a lot of legalistic things you can do as a parent. And I would rather make sure that I'm getting the EQ piece right, because I'm very clear with my kids about telling them, hey, yeah, it's important. Like Grant loves math. I mean, he's like a math ninja. You know, we're riding in the car. He wants me to ask him, you know, what's pi squared and what's 3,982 minus 1,843. He does the math in his head. And I'm like, hey, look, that's important. Good, you can do it because dad can't. I'm like, but don't put math above understanding how you should treat that teacher who's in authority, right? And why is she in authority? And why do you need to submit to authority? Why does your dad submit to authority, right? I'm not the owner of the company. And so I can't just go tell the owner, hey man, sorry dude, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. No, man, he's going to go, well, you can go do whatever you want to do because you got all the time in the world now to do it. Peace, love you. So I think it's not just a work. I know we're talking a lot of business, right? But again, if you're going to be balanced, you can't have like a work you and then a home you, right? You can't have a husband you and a boss you, right? Like anything with two heads is a monster. And so you do have to figure out how to try to be the same person all the time. Now, there's no doubt that my wife knows there'll be days I will come home and she will be like, you could use some time by yourself. And I'm like, you are so right. Because she picks it up right away, right? So, but again, my point there is just, there's other aspects of your life, right? You know, my pastor is a guy that I can send a little voice message to and go, hey man, having a major suck fest today. So, you know, if you got an extra 2 seconds, if you would just be in agreement with me, right? You know, where there's unity, God's commands his blessing. So, I'll just shoot him a little message and say, hey man, here's the drama going on right now. And if you wouldn't mind being unified with me, like I already prayed and I believe I receive it, but I wouldn't mind, I'm not asking you to do something that I'm not willing to do, right? But I would love to know that you're in agreement with me, and then bam, I'm done, right? I can move on. Now I know, cool, we're locked in, right? I prayed it, I accept, believe I receive it, and on to the next phase. But it's a whole life thing. You know, it's not just, I just don't come to work and think that way. I'm trying to think that way all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. That was great, Scott. And again, taking lots of notes here. And it is, I mean, you know, again, I pulled out about 10 or 15 different points of how you're leading and running your business with emotional intelligence. And for you, yeah, it's not like you're consciously, okay, what, you know, does this require each? It's who you are, which is awesome. You know, one of the points I want to highlight there, I thought was
can I add something to that real quick? I'll be real fast. But that I didn't just, because some people just naturally have talent like that. Everything I'm telling you, I had to learn. Like I didn't just like, oh, natural business guru. No, that is not who I am. So everything that we're talking about, I had to learn. And so there may be a lot of people listening to this that if you're just starting, you're like, well, dude, I'm like, holy cow, that's jumping the Grand Canyon to try to do all that stuff. I didn't jump the Grand Canyon initially, right? Baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, you know, it's easy to look where somebody is after 25 years and measure yourself against that. You got to give yourself a little bit of grace, right? And say, okay, I'm just starting, but it's great to have a blueprint of maybe where I want to go, but the enemy will use that to totally get in your grill and be like, yeah, man, see, you don't do that. Oh, you don't do that. Oh, you didn't do that. Newsflash, dude, none of us have done that all the time, right? But definitely, these are all things that I had to learn to where I don't have to think about it. But Noble, there was definitely a time when I had to say, okay, problem number one, I don't know if this is EQ or IQ. How do I would literally analyze it that way, but then you do it enough, right? You get in your car now, you don't go, okay, I'm in the car. Okay, so I need to put a seatbelt on. Oh, okay, I need to look in the rearview mirror. Oh, I need to, like, dude, you're on the phone, you're talking to your wife, you're smacking kids. I mean, you know, hey man, you know, I'm joking. Not really, Bible says, you know, anyway, but you know what I'm saying, right? So give yourself grace and say, okay, I will get there, right? But no one just pops out and goes, Donald Trump, right? You know, Mark Cuban, you know, Bill Gates. No, it's a process. It is a process. You got to follow the process.
Love that. So that's going to tie into one of my questions I have coming up here. One of the things I think is huge that you mentioned or brought up, that that I am just now learning, as of a few years ago, because I was not I mean, just you may not call it this. This is one of the things I call it, a combat or chaos or adrenaline plan. So, you are self-aware enough to where, okay, you're feeling your blood pressure rise, whatever your triggers are. Let me send my wife a text. Let me send my pastor a text. Let me, you've set in some left and right limits for yourself. And then another one I love is you've given permission to some of your inner circle folks. Hey, if you see me coming off the rails a little bit, pull me off into the corner and say, hey, bro, you're starting to get dialed up a little bit. Let's dial it back down. Just all that stuff, again, takes EQ. It takes awareness. It takes self-awareness to be, for me, I never had any buffer between the trigger and my reaction. It was immediate. So the trigger was pulled, somebody would say something or do something, and I would immediately turn green and go Hulk on them, right? So you're like, oh, you're right. For me, this was absolutely crossing the Grand Canyon. And thankfully, after a few years of very intentional growth in the area of my emotional intelligence, and which is impacting my faith as well, I now am slowly developing a buffer where the trigger happens. Now I can, okay, now hold on a second. I'm feeling something. Okay, what am I feeling? Right. I'm able to start going through this little battle drill, but I think that's key, that everyone has a battle drill, an emotional battle drill, a chaos plan that you put in place so that when we get triggered, not if, but when, you're not going Hulk on people. And like you're saying, crushing and destroying relationships. And one of the ways to repair relationships for those of us that are not Scott Criswell level yet, is called RFR, repentance, forgiveness, restoration. Repentance, forgiveness, restoration, right? Repent first, then you ask for forgiveness, and then you come up with a game plan to collect together to restore that relationship. Okay, so based on, I love that, again, that last comment that you made about, okay, you're not crossing the Grand Canyon, you didn't pop out of the womb, you want to go from second lieutenant or first lieutenant into CEO of the planet, right? This has been a journey. So how have you, and again, you may not, have even really been familiar with this term as much as obviously we're using it here in this conversation, the whole EQ and emotional intelligence, Scott, but how have you developed what is now called emotional intelligence, right? How have you developed yourself? And what would you have done differently now looking back after 25 years? What would you have done differently along your journey?
Well, I think if you knew how I grew up, man, and I was kind of old school, if any of you know who Bobby Knight is, right? So I literally grew up, it was sort of like having Bobby Knight as a dad. So you were very hesitant to make a mistake because there were significant ramifications that usually involved a leather belt if you made a mistake. Okay. And so I think I'm going to answer the second part of your question first. I think if I was going to do things over again, I would allow myself to be okay making mistakes earlier and more frequently, right? John Maxwell's got a great book called Failing Forward, okay? And the only way you don't succeed is you don't fail, right? Because no one does anything new or revolutionary without there being failures along the way, right? And we could do Abe Lincoln running for office. You could Google, Thomas Edison. There's a reason it's called WD-40. It's because W1 through W39 didn't work, okay? But they didn't give up. They got it right at WD-40, okay? So I think knowing that, and that was one of the great things that the owner of this company, when I started, it was like, okay, man, I have permission to fail. He's like, look, if I don't hear that you're failing and making mistakes, I'll be really upset, because then that tells me you're not trying. I'm like, well, dude, I'm really good at screwing up. You're going to love me, man. Like I can screw up like nobody's business, So, but, we live in a society today where if you mess up, right, if I get something wrong on a test, or, I come home with a C instead of an A, then like that's viewed as a negative. And so you've got to view screwing up, making mistakes, failing as a positive, because now I know, number one, what doesn't work, right? So I can eliminate that one. Now, if I do the same thing over and over and it's not working, that's a different issue, right? But, you know, if I try something and that didn't work, now I've eliminated one way that doesn't work. And I'm now on my path to solving this. That's the way my brain is wired. And I've always told people, if it wasn't intentional and it isn't habitual, then I'm not going to get mad at you about it. Right? So if it wasn't intentional, or if it isn't habitual, then I don't get mad at you about it. Now, if you come to work late every single day, that is habitual. And there's very few things that will cause me to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But like if you roll in here at 8:01, like you don't want to talk to me for about 45 minutes. Okay. I mean, like I will, yeah. So anyway, we'll just leave that one alone for maybe another session with you. All right. You can give me therapy on that, Noble. But my point is that if it's not intentional or it's not habitual, give people grace. Okay. That doesn't mean I won't ask you, hey, why'd you do it that way? Because I want to understand it also, right? If we don't talk about it, then I can't help you avoid doing it again. So I don't need to know how you messed up, because it's going to go in your OER or your NCOER, or I'm going to, go down to HR and write you up. But if you're afraid to fail, then you're afraid to bring your failures to me, and now I can't help you, right? So I tell all the guys, I'm like, dude, the only reason I'm running this thing is because I've just screwed up more than anybody else. I mean, they can't find anything I'm good at. I just keep making mistakes all the time, right? Screw up, move up. Like, that's the program here. So, but if somebody is afraid to tell you that they messed up, then you'll miss out on that coaching or counseling or mentorship. So I think that's a huge one, Noble. And then, your first part that you asked me was, like, how have I worked on my EQ? I look at people that I think are way better off than me in those areas, and I try to get some of their time. Like, that's part of why I love what you do, because podcasts and YouTube channels, like that didn't exist 25 years ago, right? You have more access to information today than at any time on the planet. Like, if you want to run a marathon, if you want to bake a cake, if you want to know how to make homemade hand sanitizer, right? So you don't get coronavirus, everything, all that data is available. So it's really not that I don't know how to do it. It really, in today's day and age, and newsflash, nobody's going to want to hear this, right? Because accountability isn't super popular today. But it's really just because you aren't doing it. Okay, so just look yourself in the mirror, go, and just be honest. Go, hey man, I haven't been doing it, right? Like, if you wanted me to run a marathon right now, I can't. If I did, it'd be a horrible time, and I wouldn't be fast, right? Now, I'm cool 8 to 10 miles right now, right? But I know I haven't put in the mileage for me to be effective at 26 miles. 8 to 10, I mean, unless you're 22 in an SF unit, you may have a tough time hanging with me, all right? So, but I'm honest enough to say, I know I can't run a marathon right now, but if I want to, I can download that program and I can go, okay, so if I tweak these things, I can get to 26.2 because I've got a good base at 8 to 10. So number one, get around people and resources that can get you the information that you want. And there's so much of that today. Like, there's no excuse for anything, quite honestly, in my mind. Books, dude, I mean, get around key seminars, I mean, there are people that are willing to share how they have overcome things, and man, treasure that. Okay. Yeah. I have stolen from Noble, and say it all the time. I have no problem sharing the junk in my trunk, because I heard him say it so many times, and he's so transparent, right? People like somebody that is authentic. When you come across a zero defect iron mic, everybody knows that's not real. Okay. But get around somebody who's willing to tell you how they did it, I think is really, really critical. Read the right things, listen to the right things. And then, as important, you got to shut negative things off. Your EQ will get drained if you get connected to the wrong negative stuff. So if I'm around somebody, what is it Albert Einstein said? He said, don't be around negative people, because they will bring the problem to every solution, right? Don't get around negative people, because they will bring the problem to every solution. And so be careful who you associate with, right? I have very low tolerance for somebody that is negative, right? I have no problem with people that screw up because I can steer a car that's moving, but I can't steer a parked car. And I have a rule that I stole from Captain Tom Wilk, West Point guy. Woo woo, shout out. But he was my first company commander, and he said, I remember I made the mistake one time. I came to him and I told him I thought something was jacked up, and he stayed really calm. He was like, cool hand Luke, like no matter what was going on. And he's like, hey man, you know, you're new, so I haven't told you this. And I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, you can bring anything to me. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care how negative it is. I don't care how jacked up you think it is. And I will absolutely hear you out and talk about it. I'm like, that's what I just did, man, you know? And he's like, however, comma, you must accompany that with 2 proposed solutions to resolve it. And I'm like, oh man, I can't just come complain to you and have you fix it? Oh man, that's not cool, right? So it's real easy to want to dump on somebody, but I think a lot of times God puts us in a position and we see what needs fixed because we're the conduit to fix it. And so people miss out on their blessing and their opportunity a lot of times. They're like, man, Noble, man, that's jacked up. I mean, that computer audio wasn't nearly as crisp as it needed to be. Okay, Einstein, well, if your guy's gift to IT, maybe you should give him a ninja class and show him how to do it better, right? So I think be careful who you associate with. And I had to learn that, you know, very early. Get the right information, which there is a wealth of it today. Nobody can say, I don't know how to do it. You might not know right now, but you can know in minutes how to do almost anything you want to put your mind to, okay? And then be willing to make a lot of mistakes because that's the only way you're going to get there. Nobody's going to do it right the first time. You know, how many guys don't make it through Ranger School 72 days, you know, the old school long when it was harder, straight through, right? You know, 4 phases, not 3, like the hard Ranger School. No, but you know what I'm talking about. But a lot of guys get recycled, but that doesn't mean that they can't do it, right? I mean, it doesn't mean you're not a good officer because you had to redo something. So I think be careful because our traditional education system today wants to penalize you for getting something wrong. And I just take a very different view of that.
Love it. Totally agree. 100%. That's another reason why we homeschool as well for that same reason, because I wanted, one of the reasons is I wanted to create an education program where we celebrate failure, just like you do. You celebrate failure as a leader, as a business owner. I wanted to celebrate it as a parent so that she could have a whole completely different perspective and grid and framework for failure. Because as an entrepreneur, like you expressed, I call it professor failure. Failure is an opportunity. Failure is a tool. Failure is a resource. It's not something to get. It's not something to get grounded for. It's not something to get degraded or you know whatever for. It is as an entrepreneur, man. That is the only way that you will learn is by failing. So anyway, I love what you said there. Okay, what are your and I can pull out a number of them just by hearing you talking. Obviously, I've known you for a long time, but what do you feel your strengths and superpowers are?
My superpowers. I'm doing a Jedi mind trick on you right now, Noble. Your money is transferring into my bank account. It's my superpower. Yeah, man, I don't think I have any superpowers, other than I think I'm plugged into the right power. But I do think that, and again, if you're going to go for the long game, right? Here's maybe a better way to tell it, right? The little parable, but we had a visiting pastor, and he had our stage is, I mean, if it's 100 feet long, it's got to be at least 200 feet long, right? So he had this white piece of rope, 3 braided rope, and it stretched literally end to end on the stage, and the last 2 to 3 inches of it were rolled up with red electrical tape, right? I mean, if you were sitting far back, you could hardly see it. I mean, it was like, that much electrical tape and then, 200 feet of regular rope. And he said, okay, here's the scenario. right? This is one of those little leadership reaction drills kind of moments, right? He goes, hey man, here's a scenario. You are transporting the most valuable thing in your life in the back of this truck. You can have 2 pieces of rope to secure it. And then he took scissors out and he cut that 2 to 3 inches of the little rope that had the red tape on it off. So now they're separate, right? He said, you can use this piece that's, whatever, 180 feet long, right? Or you can use this piece. Which one are you going to use? Well, newsflash, even the history major said, I'll use the long piece, right? And so he said, then why is it, right? If you think of this rope as eternity, why is it that we let 2 inches worth of things drive our decision-making process when we should be letting 180 feet of something that's far more significant impact our decisions? And it was like, mic drop. Okay. So I think, and again, dude, I screw up. I mean, we can do a whole separate interview on the things that I just screwed up today. Okay. So please don't anybody think, man, I'll probably get yelled at when I get home for not taking the trash out, or I don't know. I mean, I probably screwed up 85 things today, but my point is I do try to evaluate 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, is this going to matter? Right? Because yesterday I had a little moment with a guy in shipping that 5 years from now won't matter. Right? But in the moment, like, it was critical, 911, DEFCON 5, 18th Airborne Corps, Rapid Deployment Force moment. And in reality, that's not really important. Okay? So I think the long game of, ultimately, when this is all said and done, right? No matter what your background is, none of us will occupy this big ball of mud indefinitely. And so what am I really going to look back on and say, well, the most important thing was, man, I just drove people into the ground and made my numbers all the time? Probably not, right? So think about those 2 pieces of rope and what is driving that decision process. Is it, if I'm really going to use that little 2 inch of red that, that represents eternity, or I'm going to use 180 feet that represents, my life on this big ball of mud, what's going to trump that? And so I think if I was going to put it on one thing, I would say that is a big driver for me, going forward.
Massive analogy. I love that visual and that perspective. And it's amazing how often I don't do that. Right?
Well, I mean, we all do, right? Because we are emotional. We're emotional, right? I always joke that I'm he-motional, right? A guy, but he-motional, my wife, she-motional, right? But we're all emotional, okay? We all have emotions, and a lot of people don't, like, that's just not, like, if you're an SF dude, like, you don't talk about emotions, okay? Like, it is not in the Q course, okay? And so I think a lot of military people in particular struggle with that because, there isn't a FM, 370 dash whatever emotional handbook, right? And so, but we all have we are emotional creatures, but we have to know that doesn't give me an excuse to say, well, I'm mad and I'm emotional, and so that's why I slapped you, Noble. I mean, it's not a license to do whatever I want to do because I'm emotional, but we have to give everybody grace. We have to give ourselves grace, but emotions are real. And so I think the fact that you embrace it and talk about it and digest it and dissect it and break it down is why I wanted to do this with you, because it's just a critical component of life, not just business, but just life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because now I'm this is obviously a space that I've been studying very intensely for a few years now. It is amazing how many articles Fortune, Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, Harvard, that are putting out content on the importance of emotional intelligence. And it's so funny. You described it again. You are the CEO of a international company with I would say a lot of employees, and you just said yourself earlier on in the interview that EQ is more important than IQ, right? I could have gotten first in my class at Harvard, but if I can't communicate my points or have, again, self and others awareness, you know, this, you know, right, this is not the position for you. So anyway,
No question.
I absolutely love it. Okay, now I've got, we're winding down here, but I've got one question that I did not prep you with. So this is going to be on the fly. Okay, so the question is, what questions do you ask yourself consistently?
The number one question I ask myself is, am I praying for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? Because it's very easy to try to solve things on your own. Like if you've been successful at anything, and I mean, like I was a decent athlete. I mean, I was at a small school, right? But I mean, you know, captain of the football team, and I had a 4.0 in high school and all that, you know, happy, fun stuff. And so if you're able to do things, I think it's easy to say, you might need to be my age to know this little analogy here, but back before cell phones and Google, if you wanted information, you would pick up a phone on a line like this, right? I would dial 411, and like somebody would be on the other end and they would give you information. It was called dialing for information, right? Be like, well, call 411, right? And so I had this moment years ago, and I was taking what I refer to as a 911 request to God. And he's like, hey man, that's cool. Like, I'm going to help you, but it'd be really cool if I was a 411 God to you and not just a 911 God to you. And I'm like, woohoo, the smackdown, baby. Woo. Okay. I'm awake. Yes, sir. I understood that. Read you, leave it, Charlie. So again, if we leave it to our own devices, because we are emotional, right? Like my decision in and of its own can clearly be wrong a lot, right? So one of the number one that talks about in Proverbs all the time, but one of the number one, like one of the big things that I'm checking myself on all the time is I rarely ask for something specifically, because then I feel like I'm acting like I already know what the best answer is. So instead I will say, hey, here's the issue. Please give me the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding to make a good decision. A lot of people's lives depend on this. You know, I want to get this right for the right reasons, you know, and so I would say, like, I find myself asking myself that question more than any other question. Okay. The other question that I ask myself a lot is, are you doing what you need to do so everybody else can do what they need to do? Because I'm in a spot where a lot of people are relying on me or counting on me for certain things. And that, you know, I don't want to be this, hey man, yeah, I'm falling on my sword for everybody else all the time. No, because sometimes the answer to that question is, no, I'm not. And so what I need to do is I need to go work out. Like I need to go on a long run. Because for me to do what I need to do for other people, I need to de-stress. And if I don't go for a run, I might go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on somebody tomorrow, right? So, you know, hey, how are you doing, self? Because, you know, tomorrow's a big day. So like, if you need to get something right, you know, you know, we're big on that. I love Noble, you know, you said the RFR, you know, you know, repent, forgive, and restore, right? So we're constantly doing that. And so I will ask myself, hey man, like, are you cool with everybody right now? And quick story, you know, so yesterday, no, not yesterday, seems like yesterday, it was Friday, but I was in shipping, you know, and this guy told me, hey man, this is causing a lot of extra work right now. Well, that was not a good comment to make to me, since I had started at 3:50 in the morning with the UK, and I knew I was going to be on until midnight with China. And so for me, not for most, but for me, I'm like, hey man, you know, like I feel like I'm yelling when I do that, you know. I'm like, hey Jack, let's just set the record straight. You know, I'm pretty sure you haven't been rolling since 0350. Don't tell me you're busy, bro. You know, one of those kind of deals. And even though I was completely justified in doing that, I got back to my desk and I said, hey, man, you just kind of lost it there for a minute. And I sent him an email and I said, hey, Joe, which is not his name, but we're protecting the innocent here. I said, hey, Joe, hey, man, I apologize. In the heat of the moment, I kind of raised my voice. I'm like, you're one of my favorite dudes in the company. Love you like a brother. Please forgive me. And then, dude, he came back like, he's like, man, that was all my fault. I should have never talked to you like that, blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 hours later, you know, we're joking with each other. Like I was in a meeting and I saw him in the hallway and I'm like, dude, stay away from me. And he's like, no, man, we're good. We're all cool, right? But it would have been very easy for me to go, I was totally justified in that, right? But I just knew by asking myself, hey, man, are you cool with everybody right now? And it's like, I'm probably not cool with that guy. You know, okay, well, let's make it right, you know, because those little things will fester. And if you're not constantly, hey, man, am I cool with my wife? Like, have we been on a date lately? Hey, am I cool with my kids? You know, have I had special time with Lynn? Have I had special time with Grant? Whatever, you know, hey, man, am I cool with this particular department? Man, I haven't talked to anybody in shipping in like days. I should just go down there, you know? And so this has been so nuts here. Like one of the things we just started last week is, I mean, if you had any idea the vault, like it is, I don't care what the most amazing military, like D-Day talk would have looked less crazy than like what this company looks like right now. And so I grabbed one of my guys and I said, dude, find the best donut that you can buy in St. Louis. And every day, here's these departments. I said, I want signs plastered all over this box, symmetry, team player of the day. And I'm like, we are anointing. And I gave him a list. I'm like, here's the order. Every day, no one else gets it. It's that department, that day. Like you're getting the best donuts on the planet because I'm like, hey, we got to make sure everybody's cool, right? Like if everybody's going to be all in, they need to know that I'm recognizing that they're all in. So make sure you're cool, right? If you're harboring something with somebody, it's only hurting you. You think you're hurting them by giving them a cold shoulder and, you know, giving them your pouty face. Newsflash, you're only hurting you. So I feel like I'm asking all the time, am I asking for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? And am I doing what I need to do for everybody? Which to me is sort of, you know, in tangent there with, you know, am I cool with everybody? You know, is the last time I talked to Noble, is the last conversation he and I had, hey man, I really didn't care for your haircut, man. And that's the last thing I said to him, right? I mean, in your case, it would be hair's cut because they're all cut, but you know what I'm saying there, right? So, and that'll just come back to you. Be like, you know what? Like, I should call him back and be like, hey, dude, I was totally kidding about your hair. But you know what? You may have taken it as a big insult. And you might be like, dude, no, totally cool. I'm like, that's fine. But I just want you to know, I did not mean it that way. And I just want to, it's more important for me to know that you and I are cool than it is for me to make a funny comment about, you know, you can grow a beard and I can't, and I'm jealous about it, whatever, right? So make sure your relationships are cool, because that, again, that's in the long game. And you need to know that you better be asking for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from somebody, because there's nobody that's going to get it done all on their own.
Love it. Oh my goodness, dude. Those three questions are amazing. Super powerful questions. Okay, last question, Scott.
Hold on, man. CNN's on the other line. Let me tell them I can't talk right now.
You said they called you today, right?
Yeah, CBS did Friday. They wanted to be here Friday, and then CNN wanted to be here today. And I'm like, sorry, man, I've already carved out one interview today, and that's going to Gibby Gibbs. So sorry, man. Yeah, get in line, folks. Get in line.
Boom. That's right. That's right. Okay. So what are, you know, you mentioned Personality Plus. You mentioned Failing Forward. So that first one was by Florence Littauer. The second one by John Maxwell, Failing Forward. What have been some other key resources, books, podcasts, or people that have been very helpful for you along your, you know, business leader journey? Yeah.
You want me to give them to you kind of rapid fire? Anything John Maxwell I love, right? And you can get a book, whatever. However, the good news today is they're on every format, right? So I don't even need to say book, audit. Like if you just find that person, however you like to learn, it's in your format. But love John Maxwell. Big fan of, oh my gosh, Joyce Meyer. If you ever read or listened to any Joyce Meyer stuff, I use Twitter actually as a means of me getting little doses of people that I like to follow. So like my pastor's on there. Again, where you asked me who I follow. So, hey man, I'm just going to give you my answer, right? I've got Joel Osteen on there. I have Stephen Furtick on there. I have, oh dude, man, I follow all those guys. David Crank, he's my pastor. He's really good. I will listen to some Joe Rogan. I'm very careful where I listen to that because that's a very colorful podcast, if you will. And that's not cool for kids, and you wouldn't want to play it in your Bible study on Sunday without you listening to it ahead of time. But his thought process on a lot of things is amazing. And the people that he has on there, because the guests that he has on there are just so incredible. They're typically at the top of whatever they do. And so I love to learn, from people like that. I like to read a lot of Business Insider stuff. I'm trying to remember, man, I read Grit. Grit was a book that really stuck with me. I mean, to me, that was a very EQ book, and I always think of you when I think of Grit, because that book starts out talking about how, West Point had the whole IQ thing figured out, right? They were dude, if you fit in these boxes, you're going to succeed. And then they figured out that didn't work and eventually figured out that EQ is better than IQ, but that's a great read. I like a lot of Simon Sinek stuff. There's a guy, I sat down with him. He's a New York Times bestselling author, but his name is Dr. Adam Alter, and he's done TED Talks. I love TED Talks. I have a TED Talk app on my phone. Those are nice, short dumps, they're not, 3 hours long, and I can squeeze one of those in. I'm a freak about my YouVersion app, right? So like the very first thing I do in the morning is I'm on my YouVersion app, and at a minimum, I'm doing my verse of the day, because the minute I open email or text, like the UK is going crazy, and then America's going crazy, and then, it's like 24/7, right? So the very first thing I do in the morning, YouVersion, I do that before I even get in the bathroom, and then the whole time I'm a thinker. So then the whole time I'm brushing my teeth, going potty, getting a shower, shaving, I am just thinking over, kind of getting my mind right for the day, because once that day starts, it's game on, So I always start with YouVersion. Love that app. I will do fitness things, because my personal mojo is definitely tied to my physical fitness. So I like to get motivated to hear somebody that's doing something. Like I like to do run and guns, which is kind of like a 5 or a 10. It's like a shooting biathlon. So that will, because if I'm doing work stuff all the time, I can burn out mentally, because every time my top strength is responsibility. So when I'm listening to things that I need to do and that I can implement, then I'm going, woo, 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 and it's like, oh, I got to do all this stuff. So occasionally I need to listen to something that I can go, okay, that's enjoyable. And yet it's still helping me with my physical goal, because my physical goal is tied to my mental mojo and my positive attitude. And so I will do, I might listen to a guy talking about, how to do shooting, or, how to do hill work, for a 10K. And that can be a 5 or 10 minute little deal. But number one in the morning, YouVersion. I do not listen to news. I don't listen to the news. I have to educate myself to talk. I could probably talk about coronavirus as well as Dr. Fossey from NIH, right? Like I know what I'm talking about, but my entire ride to work, I have praise and worship music on, because the number one thing I'm doing is I'm going to be thankful for everything I have. I'm going to be grateful, and I'm going to be appreciative. And again, I already know, right? I already said you got to keep yourself full, because the minute I get here, I'm going to get nothing but a wall of lead of negativity and all the challenges. And I'm going to be like, oh no, not today, man. No. not today. I got the helmet, the shield, the sword, man, bam, game on, right? So those are all things that I'm constantly dialed in on, but find, we're all different, right? Find who you like that you relate to. Oh man, what's his name? Last one I want to give you. And I love him too. And I watch him all the time, and now I can't think of it. You and I have talked about him before. He did the Global Leadership Summit.
Craig Groeschel.
Dude, I love Craig Groeschel, right? Love Craig Groeschel. He's really good friends with my pastor. There's a guy in Tennessee. And his name is escaping me right now. He went to college. He went to Bible school with Stephen Furtick, and I love him. He was the guy that did the rope analogy. He was a guest pastor with us. But find who you can relate to. I also like to listen to people that really stretch me, because some of those people are great speakers, and they're way more animated than I would be. And I'll pick up little tips. So I'm not only getting the information, but I'm learning, well, what does that guy do? How does he say? Is he doing too many hand gestures? Is he doing not enough? Because like by default, I will typically have a serious face because I'm listening and I'm responsibility and I'm processing what you're telling me. And I'll catch myself as I'm talking and go, you're talking, these people are watching and you're not smiling. That's not fun to watch. And I go, and Noble, the other thing I will do, and I don't even want to smile right now, but I know I didn't just smile. So I'm going to smile for a few minutes. And then eventually I'm getting serious. I'm bad by deal. Oh, wait, so I'm going to smile again. And I'm not telling you that, but I've done that like at least 10 times as I've been talking to you, because I know I have to do that to relate to people. I know Cheryl is laughing at me, but I have told you I would tell you all the junk in my trunk. And so, right, but you'll not only learn the information, but you'll learn how do they package it, how do they present it, and that's as important as whatever media you get it from. So that's probably a lot of stuff, but anyway, that's all stuff that I like to get, keep my EQ powered up with, so to speak.
Any final comments, tips, suggestions from a business perspective as an owner of a company or as a leader, as an influencer that you'd like to share?
You got to break things down into 90-day windows. Okay? Because if you're listening to everything that Noble Gibbons is putting out, you will just feel like you're never implementing it enough, right? Plus, if you use any of those other resources, you're going to get more things and more suggestions, right? So life is a marathon, but it's run in 90-day windows. So whether it's family, whether it's church, whether it's finances, whether it's business, whatever, okay, figure out what you want to do and change for the next 90 days, and don't have it be 85,000 things, okay? Noble used to have this book that he showed me one time that was like 85,000 pages. IBM Watson couldn't have done what he was doing, okay? And he's like, yeah, bro, this is all I do. And I'm like, well, I just locked up. Dude, engine seized up, brain seized up, okay? So figure out in 90 days, I can work on this stuff and then reevaluate it, right? So because then you can tweak it, because it is a series of tweaks and peaks. And the only way you're going to do that is to set some goals, right? I really encourage you to write them down. There's great goal apps and all kinds of cool things, but set some goals, do it for 90 days, reevaluate. That's how you get to WD-40. Don't quit after WD-1 or WD-2, right? And don't say, I'm going to go to WD-5 million. Like, dude, we would never have WD-5 million. Somebody said they were going to do it 5 million times. So break it down into 90-day increments. And then you got to but don't just evaluate it yourself, right? There's power in sitting down with somebody else, somebody that you trust, a mentor, whatever, and then say, hey man, here's what I said I was going to do for 90 days. If I go, hey Noble, I'm going to run a marathon, and in 90 days, you gave me that running plan. I'm going to sit down, and 3 months later, Noble goes, hey dude, are you ready for that marathon this summer? I'm like, yeah, dude, I ran 2 miles. Okay, well, Noble is politely going to go, okay, bro, I don't want you to die. Like, you can't run a marathon if you can only run 2 miles. It's 26.2. So that then empowers somebody. If they know what you want to do, now they're not telling you what to do. They're reminding you, and they're united with you on how to help you hit your goal. So I would say 90 days, man, like 90 days, and then reevaluate. And then but you're doing it constantly. right? You're doing it constantly. What's great is that matches up with the seasons. So here in Missouri, we have 4 seasons. So it's a very natural thing, and it matches a regular calendar, right? So first quarter, if you're on a normal calendar, is January, February, March, right? So in December, I'm saying, okay, man, what do I want to do in 2020? And I figure out what my 2020 game plan is, but I'm only going to run that for 90 days. Then I'm going to stop at the end of first quarter, evaluate everything, and go, what do I want to sustain? What do I need to, correct, fix, adapt, whatever? And then bam, now I'm ready for my next 90 days. Because if you set a 18, 20, I have long-term goals too, right? I eventually want to run a marathon, but my goal this week is I'm going to run 3 miles every day, right? And then next week, maybe it's 3.5, right? So you're building. That doesn't mean I don't have the goal to run 26.2, but that's got to get broken down. And that's why I think everybody can do anything for 90 days.
Love it. Excellent, Scott. Excellent, Skinny. Bro, thanks a million. This has been amazing. You got it, brother. You got it. So everyone watching, listening to this, wherever platform you're watching on, please, review, comment, like, subscribe. I'd love to hear your takeaways that you got from Scott's comments, insights, and wisdom. I'd love to hear from you all what resonated with you the most, what points resonated, and even maybe some thoughts on how you're going to take that, Skinny, that Scott shared and apply it in your own life, right? And set it up the 90-day windows of, okay, here's how I'm going to apply these 2 or 3 points that he shared in the first quarter. And then maybe second quarter, 2 or 3 points that he shared, I'm going to apply in the second quarter, that kind of thing. We'd love to hear from you guys. But thank you so much. Scott, thanks a million, brother.
Dude, love you like a brother, man. I would do this if nobody ever heard this because you and I get to talk. So, I just think it's cool that, again, one of my favorite things about you is you will share anything with anybody because you're that committed to other, like, people. I've heard you say it before, people are your crack, and so I love that you love people, and who doesn't want to spend time with somebody that wants to help other people? So thank you for letting me participate, and man, anytime I can help you, now or in the future, I will dish CNN and I will come talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, bro. Love you. Give the family hugs.
I will, man. Love you too, brother.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.